Hi, Year 3. So, for science today, I'm going to introduce what you're going to be doing in a slightly different way. So, I'm going to let you see if you can guess what we're going to be talking about in science, rather than me telling you like I normally do. I'll make you work a little bit for this today. So, I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint, and we are going to see if we can work out what the focus of our lesson is going to be today. So as you can see, it's called a What Am I PowerPoint. Fits in with our rocks and fossils that we've been talking about, but something specific that we're going to be looking at. So let's see if we can work out what it is. So what am I? Read the clues and guess. How many clues will you need? I wonder how far through this PowerPoint we will get before you actually get it right. Let's see. So the first clue says, I am made of rock, but I'm not a building. We've talked about the fact that many rocks are used for different buildings that we have around us. Okay. So this object that we're talking about, it is made of rock, but it's not a building. Okay, so I'm very precious, but I'm not a diamond. So it's made of rock, it's very precious. I am made of different layers, but I am not sedimentary rock. So we know that sedimentary rock is made of those different layers over many years, don't we? So what we're talking about today is made of different layers, but it's not sedimentary rock. It takes 500 years to make 2 centimeters of me, to make 2 centimeters of me. But guess what I'm not? I'm not a fossil. Half of me is made of air and water, but I'm not a wet sponge. So let's think about some of those clues so far. It's made of rock, it's made of layers, it's very precious, it's made of air, or half of it's made of air and water. I wonder what it could be. I wonder if any of you are getting this right yet, what we think we're going to be talking about. I can help prevent flooding, so I can help stop flooding, and that's been a real problem for lots of areas lately. But I'm not a flood barrier. Oh, but this, a handful of me contains more microorganisms than there are people on the earth. So just a handful contains more microorganisms than there are people on the earth. But I am not moldy cheese. I am home to many creatures. A bit like that picture that we looked at a few weeks ago with our writing, didn't it? I'm home to many creatures, but I'm not a zoo or a farm. Do anybody's getting any closer now to what they think it might be? Without me, there would be no life on planet Earth. That's how important this object is. Have you guessed what I am? I wonder if you have. It's soil. Have thought. Maybe you did think that soil is what we are going to be looking at today. So let's recap on what we have just found out about soil from that guessing game that we just done. Okay, what facts did we find out? So it's made from rock and other things. So not just rock, but rock actually helps in making it. It's very precious, because that was how it was described as we were going through, because everything needs it to survive. It talked on one of the clues there about it being home for many, many different creatures as well, didn't it? It's made of different layers in the ground. We had to dig down, we'd see different layers of soil as we went down. It takes more than 500 years to make 2 centimeters of soil, just 2 centimeters of soil. It takes 500 years to make that. Half of it, we know some of it's made from rock, but half of it is made of air and water. It can help prevent flooding because it can absorb large amounts of water. So when it rains, then the rainwater absorbs into the ground, into the soil. Okay, so it helps to make sure that it can take in that water and prevent flooding. Of course, if there's been lots of rain like we've had lately, even the soil can struggle to do that. A handful of soil contains more microorganisms than there are people on the planet. That's an incredible number. And without soil, there would be no life on Earth. Because if you think that everything revolves around being able to grow and thrive in the soil. So that is what we are going to be talking about today. We're going to look a little bit more about how it's made. We've talked about what makes up soil and the different parts of it, but what we're going to do now is find out exactly how that process works. So we're going to look at a little story together today to help us to explain how that works. So let's have a look at this soil together. So it says, where does soil come from? So we're going to read through this story together and then find out exactly the different parts of the processes as we go through. So steps to success, like this little ladder picture that we've got here. Okay, so this is what we're going to be trying to work on this afternoon, to understand what happens to rocks over time. We're going to know what soil is made from. And we are going to create a storyboard showing how soil is created. Okay, so that's what we're going to be focusing on this afternoon. So, the story of Roger Rock. You're sitting comfortably for our story this afternoon. So, Roger Rock was hard. People broke hammers and spades on his hard, rocky shape. He was proud of being unbreakable. However, he was getting worried. Strange things were happening to him. He seemed to be getting smaller. When the sun shone on him in the day, he swelled up. So he got bigger. Swell up. You fall over and hurt your ankle or something, it swells up. It means it gets bigger. Okay, so when the sun shone on him, he was getting bigger. He was swelling up. And when he was cold at night, he shrank. So he got smaller. After all of this growing and shrinking, bits were starting to break off because all that movement, the changing of size, is making the rock a little bit weaker. And so bits are starting to break off him. Poor Roger. In the middle of winter, his cracks filled with water. We just talked about how much it's rained lately. So this is what was happening to Roger. He was getting rained on. And then once it's rained, if it's very cold, the water froze and the ice that was made began to push at him. Then crack, the ice made him split and more pieces were falling off. So that was causing him even more problems. Then there was the river that swept past him. That river would rub little rocks against him over and over again. And when the rocks rubbed him, little pieces wore off. Then, when the river swept big rocks past him, they would smash off other pieces from him and carry them away. So he was having little bits knocked off him by the river water. And then when the river was running really fast, it was lots of water in there, then there would be bigger bits that were knocked off him as well. So all sorts of things were happening to poor Roger at the moment. Over time, Roger Rock crumbled to stone. However, even these stones got smaller and smaller. As they were rubbed and banged together by the river, they became even smaller. They turned to gravel, then grains of sand, and finally a fine powder. The powder mixed with bits of rotting plants that had bacteria and tiny fungi. All this stuff, so all that rotten plants, all that bacteria, all that tiny fungi, all that stuff mixed with the air and water that was around it. So it becomes a big mixture. One day, Roger looked at himself and noticed he looked so different from before. He realised now that he had the wrong name. "I'm Simon Sawyer," he said. And there he is, Simon Sawyer. So he has changed from Roger Rock after all those different things kept happening to him, all those things were making those little bits break off him bit by bit by bit by bit. And then all of those parts that were mixed with the fungi, the bacteria, the air and the water has given us Simon Sawyer. So what we are going to do today is we are going to see if we can remember the different stages in that story, okay? And we're going to retell the story using a storyboard here, okay, to explain all those different processes of how we started off with Roger Rock and how we ended up with Simon Sawyer at the end, and to show and explain how those things happened. So, can you remember the stages is the question. I wonder if you can. Well, what we are going to do is you are going in today's folder to have a look at a storyboard sheet that is in there for you to have a little look at and to see what or how you can put together your different storyboard. So if I get up for you your storyboard that you are going to be using today, we'll have a little look at it together. So we have got here our story, and it looks a little bit different to the one that we saw in the PowerPoint, and I'll explain why to you in a second. Each of the 6 boxes is split into 2 sections. So the top section here is for a little picture to go into of what was happening in each of the different parts. And then under here in the second part, this is where you are going to write down what has happened in each part of the story. Now, of course, you've got the PowerPoint in the folder too, so you can go back and have a look at the PowerPoint and use that to help you to explain the process. Or if you want to, there is on the second page of this sheet here, again in the folder, the 6 main parts to the story here. Okay, now they're not in the right order, they are jumbled up. So what you could do, if you didn't want to use your own words, you could use these sentences here, put them in the right order, and either cut them out and stick them onto the storyboard, or you could write them out onto your storyboard as well if you wanted to. Okay, so there's different options of how you can do it. But by the end of the activity, what I'm hoping that you will have done with this storyboard here is have a picture and an explanation for each part of the story to explain how we get from Roger Rock here over to Simon Sawyer down here. So that is today's task, all about soil and how it is formed. I hope you have lots of fun putting your storyboard together and explaining how it all works. We shall see you soon. Have a great afternoon and take care. Bye.